For the first couple years of Capcom's life, man, did they put out some amazing stuff. And by couple years, I mean 30. 30 years. From 1979 to 2009, Capcom was either creating genres or enhancing them and making them way better than anyone could have thought they could be. In the past couple of years, however, Capcom has made some really odd decisions. I say odd and not terrible, because from a broad standpoint, the decisions they made in recent years are so bad that comprehending how an entire body of experienced business executives can keep screwing up over and over and over and pissing off more and more of their customers is so difficult that you almost have to believe that they have some kind of amazing master plan in the works. Among these little controversies was the Street Fighter X Tekken thing about the DLC, which was, I gotta admit, partly understandable by both parties. Another thing that nobody can seem to figure out is why Capcom is ignoring the Mega Man franchise despite fans making it clear that they would throw money at a new title. And then they're also letting the Resident Evil franchise get worse and worse, which is a real shame after they had it so perfect with Resident Evil 4. In 1983, Capcom was established for the purpose of selling software, as opposed to game machines, which is what Capcom's predecessor, Capsule Computer Company Limited, was for. Yeah, I think I see what you did there. In 1984, the arcade version of 1942 was released, and then came Commando, and then Ghosts and Goblins. Around that same time, though, the NES hit the market, and it was actually, good, so Capcom shifted a little bit and put out some console ports. First, 1942, then Ghosts and Goblins, and then Commando. And the rest is pretty much history. They would go on to produce Mega Man, Street Fighter, Devil May Cry, Resident Evil, and the Breath of Fire series, as well as a lot of other standalone titles and series that didn't do as well commercially. And those are the titles that I want to talk about, because in my opinion, Capcom really did perfect the art of the side-scroller. There are a few games from the NES and the SNES eras that are must-plays for anyone who's a fan of this genre, new or old. They were the games that games like this and this were trying to be. Darkwing Duck is one of those games that, for the most part, makes you feel right at home. The engine is, of course, very simple. In fact, it's just a tweaked version of the engine used in the NES Mega Man games. But be that as it may, aside from the fact that it's a side-scroller where you jump and shoot, to me it doesn't feel like a Mega Man game. And this is even despite the fact that there's a level select screen and alternate weapons. But unlike Mega Man, these weapons are picked up midway through the stages by grabbing these little icons, and you can only carry one at a time. Another pretty huge difference is that they, honest to God, really aren't that useful for combat. I played through the entire game and only used the platform gun maybe once or twice to get a couple extra lives. And that was only after I figured out how to switch weapons, which was maybe halfway through the run. And last but not least, you can hook onto stuff. Reverse platforming whores! Oh, I'll tell you what I love about Ducktails. Get ready, I'm going to tell you right now. Get your pants on. The gameplay, the graphics, the physics, the play control, and the non-linearity. You can select any stage you want from the get-go, but when you get there, you may find that you need an item from another stage before you can continue. There are also little objectives that you have to accomplish in some levels, like tracking down one of your nephews to open a door somewhere, plus there's lots of hidden areas in every level. And check out these frickin' environments that you're in. Look at the background. I mean, that's a really high level of detail for a 1 megabit cartridge. This game even has 3 endings. NES, 1989, 3 endings. You got your normal ending by finishing the game with no special criteria, the bad ending by finishing the game with absolutely no money, and the best ending by finding both hidden treasures and having more than 10 million bucks. I had to include the Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse because, unlike a lot of the other Capcom/Disney titles on the SNES, this one was basically just a standalone thing. This wasn't based on any movie or cartoon, it was literally just a game, but with Mickey Mouse in it. Now, I'm not going to say this game is perfect. It feels a little bit less polished than the usual Capcom fare of the time. Some parts of the game are frustrating just because the controls are a little bit hard to get used to and the play control is just a little bit loose, making the normal jumps trickier than they have to be. But the good definitely outweighs the bad. There are a couple different styles of gameplay depending on the outfit you put Mickey in. You have your basic clothes where you can just pick stuff up and throw it. You have your wizard clothes that lets you shoot little wizard magic balls. And a mountain climber outfit that has this really cool hook shot but it doesn't work on all the ledges, and there's nothing to indicate whether it'll work on certain ledges or not. So like sometimes it turns out to be a total death trap, and a fireman outfit that lets you shoot water out of a hose, which comes in very handy in the fire-based areas of the game. Another thing that deserves to be mentioned is the soundtrack. Listen to this song that's playing right now. This is from the first stage. But it's like too epic for the first stage. I mean, they should be playing this during the ending credits. And listen to this snippet from stage 2. It's so bouncy and Celtic sounding, I can't decide whether it reminds me more of Super Mario RPG or Final Fantasy XII. I mean, you cannot look me in the eye and tell me right now that this doesn't remind you of a mix between the Rabbinaster theme song and Hello Happy Kingdom. In a way, this is kind of like a great long-lost SNES soundtrack. So if you're a fan of music from the Super Nintendo era, I urge you to check this one out. There are so many other well-known titles from this broad era too. I mean, you got Demon's Crest, you got Aladdin, you got Super Ghouls and Ghosts, which, oh my god, is the most brutally difficult game ever made. You got Strider, Final Fight, and way more. To an extent, these games are still inspiring games today. I mean, just check this out. Does that look familiar to you? It should. I just talked about it. Were there any that you particularly enjoyed? Do let me know. I'll see you guys on the flip side. Man, you know, that saying really doesn't make any sense at all anymore.